I think back to the 2010 draft class, and in that year's draft, there were two guys that were 1 and 2 on my draft board. There were two guys that when I saw them, I was like, these two guys have Hall of Fame talent. And everybody else is bringing up the rear in this draft class in comparison to these two guys. These two guys were the truth, and I knew it. I could see it. I could sense it. I could feel it. And I feel like at the NFL level, they've kind of borne out to be that way. And I'm talking, of course, about Ndamukong Suh and Eric Berry. Like those are two guys that I was absolutely huge on. Two guys that I was absolutely in love with their upside and their potential for the NFL level. And every year I look for those type of guys, and I'm just like, you know, I see them, I know it. A lot of times I'll gravitate to 2014 with Khalil Mack and Aaron Donald. And then, even what I said about Odell Beckham Jr., that if he improved his hands, he was going to be the best wide receiver in that draft class and wouldn't be close. That was a bold statement, but, maybe there'd be some Mike Evans supporters, but Odell Beckham Jr. is the best receiver out of that outstanding 2014 wide receiver class. But again, sometimes you just sense it, you feel it, you know it, and even if everybody else doesn't agree with you, you don't care, and you'll fall on your sword for some of these guys. You'll fall off the horse for them or ride the horse with whatever the fuck the saying is. One of those dudes in this year's draft class is I just feel it, I see it, I sense it, I know it. Is Malik Hooker from Ohio State. When I see this kid, I see special. When I see this kid, I see easily Pro Bowler, probably All Pro, and potentially someday Hall of Famer. I know these are big, bold statements, sure, but again, it is one of these things that sometimes when you see it, you know it. Now, I know a common concern about Malik Hooker is that he's not a great tackler. I think at times he leaves a little bit to be desired as a tackler, but sometimes he can make some big time impact, game changing type of hits. I think sometimes he was a little bit better as a tackler than he was given credit for. Um, and then, I have concerns about the labrum and what else? The sports hernia surgery, so there's some concerns about durability. But, when you talk about Malik Hooker, it feels like you're kind of nitpicking when you're talking about those things because you can emphasize and focus on all of these things, but he did so many things well. Like even talking about the durability aspect. Yeah, he had this surgery that forced him to miss the combine and so on and so forth. But we're talking about a kid that even though he was only a 1 year starter, some people have quite concerns about his experience. He played in every game for his team the past 2 seasons, and maybe is only beginning to scratch the surface of just who he can be as a football player. Just tremendous, tremendous player in my mind. When you look at him, you talk about a free safety, 6'1", 206 pounds. So no real major size concerns for me. An incredible athlete. When you see it on film, I mean, you could just see that center fielder, sideline to sideline type of guy. I don't care what he would have run at the 40 or didn't run at the 40, anything like that wouldn't matter to me. I go off the film. And when I watch the film, I see a special player with special range and special instincts for the position. Just outstanding. Just outstanding. When you're talking about a guy with good size, incredible quickness, speed, athleticism, and range, and then the instincts to boot, to be able to read the quarterback, read where the play is going. Just outstanding stuff. Really good in man coverage, too. A lot of safeties, you'll feel like they're best in a zone, they're best playing in a center field, or, in some cases, maybe defending tight ends, running backs, slower type of guys. Malik Hooker, I have full confidence that if I had to put him in against other teams' wide receivers, that he'd be able to more than hold his own in man coverage. Outstanding also in zone coverage, just absolutely elite athleticism comes into play. He truly can play center field, sideline to sideline, all over the place. I think he's outstanding at reading the quarterback's eyes. Probably the best in this draft class in terms of doing so. You're talking about a guy with absolutely tremendous ball skills, too. The best ball skills in this draft class. You're talking about a guy with 7 interceptions in 2016, taking 3 of them back to the house. A natural feel for locating the football, getting to it, can make some great athletic plays on the ball, too. They're not always just easy interceptions. I mean, he's just special in that sense. And a guy as athletic and talented from a football standpoint as he is, what really impresses me about this kid is he plays really, really, really hard. pretty consistently. Willing to do whatever it takes, willing in run support, plays with attitude, plays with a mean streak, plays with a sense of urgency, which is very important out of a guy who's a last line of defense. Um, I just, when I hear things about, I wouldn't take him because he's not a great tackler, I wouldn't take him because of the injury, personally, my opinion, I think people are fucking crazy. I think this dude is a stud. I've heard the comparisons for Ed Reed. When I popped in the film, that is exactly what the hell I saw. I saw the closest thing I've seen to Ed Reed since Ed Reed. Ed Reed is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Ed Reed is one of the great free safeties of all time. Ed Reed was a tremendous hitter, not always the best tackler, but when you talk about his specialness as in terms of instincts, being able to read offenses and read the quarterback's eyes, the ability to go sideline to sideline, be that center fielder to make plays on the ball and be a threat if he got his hands on the ball to take it to the house. That's exactly who the hell Malik Hooker is. He's Ed Reed 2.0. And I don't shy away from that. I think this dude is a stud. I think he's an absolute stud. And I think it would be a crime if he's not one of the first 5 picks in this draft. Recovery from injury be damned. I will tell you, I like this kid so much that if the Chicago Bears took him at number 3 overall, I'd be doing backflips. I say again, backflips. Because I think that they potentially got a guy who ends up being the very best player out of this entire draft class. I think he's that special. In terms of where I have him graded, I have him graded as a 93.5. He is above Myles Garrett on my draft board, behind Solomon Thomas and Jonathan Allen. Actually tied with Jonathan Allen. I think the kid is that special. I hold all 3 of those players in really high regard, and I think Malik Hooker deserves to be in that category. When everybody talks about this draft class where it's Myles Garrett and nobody's close, I think they're insane. Absolutely insane. Again, like Garrett a ton as a prospect, but you're also talking about a guy who, against some bigger opponents, injuries or not, just wasn't always there. Malik Hooker, to me, has the ability to impact a game even more than a Myles Garrett does because of all the different things he can do, especially with his ability to play the ball and force turnovers, his ability to read quarterbacks, his ability to go sideline to sideline. If I'm taking a dude, I'm taking Malik Hooker before I'm taking Myles Garrett. And I think Myles Garrett has multiple-time Pro Bowl potential at the NFL level. But for me, this dude is an absolute stud, and I'll be absolutely floored if 5 years from now we're not talking about him as being one of the very best players out of this draft class, if not the best player ultimately out of this draft class. He's a stud, period.